Welcome to the Digital Business Evolution Podcast, a place that you can now call home. I know you're creating long-lasting impact in this world, and you absolutely deserve the time, location, career, and financial freedom that you desire. I'm here to guide you with proven strategies, tools, and mindset hacks that I've taught to thousands of business owners. You'll also be hearing from exceptional guests sharing stories of their own personal and business evolution. My name is Jessica DeRose, and I'm here to teach you what I'm learning. We are all inherently worthy, regardless of the number of degrees, awards, and accolades that we've collected along the way. Grab a notebook, a coffee, and enjoy the show. Hello, and welcome back to the show. Today we have a really special episode, not your traditional episode, and one packed with a lot of power, a lot of incredible guests, and a lot of information that you're definitely going to want to listen to more than once. So here's the deal. I wrangled together 6 incredible graduates that we have from our signature program, Empower, and they came on to share their stories. These 6 women are in very different industries, and some of them actually worked with us almost 4 years ago. And they've been able to not only keep their business going, but keep their businesses growing. So you're going to hear their stories of almost filing for bankruptcy to overcoming cancer, writing books, building fitness apps, raising money, and getting venture capitalists to join their newest adventures. I mean, the list just goes on. These women are incredible. And the reason I'm bringing them here today is because I want you to see what is possible. I want you to see what's possible when you go after your crazy, stupid idea, little whispered dream that you have in your head. I want you to see what's possible when you surround yourself with a community of like-minded people who actually stretch you and support you along the way. I want to show you what's possible when you get out of your own way and you let things like, or you no longer let things like fear and imposter and judgment and rejection and all of these things hold us back, or this weird feeling we all wait for of readiness, right? And we all know ready is an illusion. Ready does not exist. Readiness comes from confidence, and confidence comes from action. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to these incredible women. Dive in, listen to their stories. Of course, in the show notes, we've left their Instagram handles so you can connect with them directly. If any one of them is a coach or offers a service in an industry that you're looking for, that you're interested in, please don't hesitate to reach out. They are so welcoming. They are so warm, and they are just such beautiful souls, heart-centered leaders that are out there just making such a big difference in the world. So all the way from Dubai to Texas and Maine, we've got women all over the world on this podcast episode. And that's it. There's just no introduction that could possibly be as incredible as these 6 women are and the impact that they are making. So cheers. All right, it's official. I am sitting here with a handful of graduates from Digital Business Evolution, some of which came through our programs over 3 years ago. And yeah, 3 years ago, I'm getting the 3 on the screen right now. So we're sitting here. These women actually don't even all know each other. We've got people in Dubai. We've got people in Texas, Maine, Arizona, Florida. These women are all over the country, actually the world right now. And I brought them together because I thought it'd be really cool if we could share their stories. So many times we have people come through our program and they'll give it a shot and decide that digital business is not for them. And many times we have people that come through our programs and years later, they're still working on a lather, rinse, repeat model. They add new products, they change, they pivot, they tweak, they come out with apps, they do all sorts of things in their business, but at the end of the day, they are still running their business and scaling their business. And so I'm really excited to bring you these incredible women today and share their stories with you. So if we could just do a little quick round robin intro, I would love that. So ladies, when you unmute, just tell everybody who you are, where they can find you, and what it is that you're currently doing to help people. So Andi, why don't you kick it off?
Hello. I am Andi Johnson. I'm a licensed therapist, certified coach, and business mentor. I am located in the Houston, Texas area. I help women heal from their past so they can live up to their fullest potential. And you can find me at Andi_Ruth on the good old IG.
I love it. And Andi and I actually met many years ago competing in fitness competitions, wearing those little sparkly bikinis and clear stripper heels. And now you are a mom of the most adorable little boy, and just helping so many people, which is just the coolest thing to watch, all of the different pivots. Next up, we've got Brandi Jackson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brandi. I am located in Austin, Texas. And I am a business coach, and I help high achieving athletes take their business careers to the next level. So working specifically with collegiate athletes, helping them build out NIL deals and build a brand for themselves as they are now able to make money on their image and likeness. So that is where my business is at. Yeah, it's just me and my dog Coda, who you may hear in the background. I apologize beforehand. Or if for those on the camera, you may see a large black animal walk across the screen. It's my dog. She looks like a wolf, but she's a dog.
Definitely looks like a wolf. So can you back up for 1 second? What is NIL?
So it's name, image, likeness. So prior to last summer, college athletes could not make any money off of their name or image, only what they essentially got in scholarship money from schools. In 2020, they passed the bill that basically said they can now make money off of their name, image, and likeness. And so there's a lot of brand opportunities, working with different agencies, getting money coming in. So they now have ample amounts to make from additional revenue streams while they're in school.
So cool. And a bit of a different avenue through business coaching than when we had started together 3 years ago, and who you were helping then.
Yeah. I started off helping really high achieving entrepreneurs who are building specific businesses. And it's actually, the mindset's very similar with a college athlete. They perform in the same way. Their mindset is the same way. They're just a little bit younger and need more of that guidance. So it's really awesome to be able to speak to teams. I get called on from coaches to come and do talks with different teams. My bread and butter is working with softball players because that's where I come from. So I specifically like to work with softball players, but of course, fallen into the football and basketball world as well. So it's fun. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited to unpack this. I just wrote a question down for you that I want to ask because I know the listeners are dying to know this answer. So we'll circle back to it. So Sandra, all the way from Dubai, just about to jump into bed. So grateful that you're here joining us. Can you give us a little intro?
Yeah, of course. Hello, everyone. My name is Sandra Sharp. I am a certified functional medicine health coach and the founder of the Rebalance Method, which is a program that helps women restore hormone balance by basically helping them to learn how to really nourish their bodies, how to heal their gut, and how to reduce toxic exposure.
And you're a mom as well of the most adorable little girl.
I am a mom of a 2-year-old girl. Her name's Harper. And yeah.
Yeah. Just making it look so easy over there. I love it.
It's not easy, believe me.
Oh, well, I'd love to talk about that as well, because you make it look effortless, but you also share the real, which is something that I appreciate. So it's not always rainbows and butterflies.
No, definitely not.
Yeah. All right. So we have Mary here. Miss Mary Tringali. Mary's got some exciting news. Everyone does, but you've got some exciting things on the horizon. I can't wait to talk about.
Hello. I am Mary Tringali. I go by Mary RMT. I am an accountability and high performance coach, and I help you optimize your habits to create more impact and income. I am a student who needed to pivot as I joined. And so I had an old business as an events coach, and I wanted to lean into a new whole world when I started with digital business evolution. And I was able to start being an accountability kind of life coach kind of thing, and just exploring what that even meant. And now it's led to so much more 2 years later. So it was 2 years ago that it's amazing how much has happened in 2 years. And I was a student who wanted to have a side hustle, and now I'm able to make that side hustle into my full-time job in a couple months, which is amazing. And also turned that random side hustle into a book that's coming out next week. So there's lots to talk about, lots to celebrate. And it all began here. So in the room that I got to get into, which one of those people was Brandi. So I'm super excited to have her here with me as we talk about our journeys together.
Such a full circle moment. And I love that you just glazed over like, no big deal. Your book is launching next week. Can we talk about that? You wrote a freaking book.
I know. And I posted the cover and all that stuff, asking for support as I launch. And somebody wrote to me and they said, okay, I know you've been doing this working on this for months, but now it's like for real. And so that's Yeah, I don't think that I realize it's for real. I think I'll really know it when I have it in my hands. So
I cannot wait to get my copy. It is so cool. It's been just amazing to watch. You're such an inspiration. I've always wanted to write a book. And again, you just made it look effortless. So I'm very excited to talk about how it all unfolded. All right, Miss Tatiana Lampa, another one of our OGs. Tatiana came through our programs 3 years ago, maybe even
I think it was
4.
actually 2018.
Oh, you're right. You were the first class in 2018. So it's 2022 right now. I don't know where the time went, but watching you just navigate this industry. So you'll do your full intro. But one of the coolest things I think about working with you was how committed you were to building an app. And despite everyone saying maybe not to do it, or it's so hard, or you're going to have to raise money, or it costs a lot of money, you were just so dead set on creating an app. And here we are years later, and you still have a thriving app, which is so cool. So give us a little intro, will ya?
Well, hello, guys. I am Tatiana Lampa. I am a trainer, corrective exercise specialist, and the founder and creator of the Train with T app and the Move Better program. I help women move without pain so they can start enjoying their workouts again. And that's something I've definitely heard from the past few years, is that I can't enjoy my workouts. My back pain has taken control of my entire life, workouts, results, and etc. Yes, I'm from New York and I moved down to sunny Florida. So here I am.
Loving every minute of it.
Yeah, loving it.
I love it. It's so good. So Training with T is the app, and you'll tell us all about it so people can find you and they can join, because you've built a really, really incredible community.
Yes, definitely.
From the garage. It all started in the garage.
Oh my gosh, from the garage, guys. I was so embarrassed because during the pandemic, there was no studio space. We couldn't go anywhere. I was in my boyfriend's garage. And then I started feeling so self-conscious. I was like, no one's going to buy my app because I'm filming in a garage. And people started signing up. And I started asking, like, do you care that it's in the garage? They're like, no, it's the pandemic. Like, who cares? And then we finally moved. And right now I'm in the studio. And it feels like a huge upgrade to actually be in this space that I've always dreamt of for the app. So for the members and subscribers to see that transition, they could totally see how much happier I am in the studio.
Oh my gosh. And I'm looking, it's funny, at the logo behind you. And I don't know if this iteration of it, but I know the original iterations were another person from one of our programs, right? You had hired someone from one of our programs.
I hired Bianca.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's so cool. It is so cool to see this. All right. And then last up, certainly not least, we've got Miss Bridgitte Carroll, who is the founder and CEO of 2 different companies. So Bridge, if you could tell us about both of those, but you are on here also because you have a physical product, which is really, really cool, but different than an app, different than a book. You've got a physical product and an entire product line that you're doing direct to consumer. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So we actually have 3 different brands now. And it's wild because when I started, one, I just want to say how grateful I am to be in this room. Jess, you are like literally probably the biggest expander in my life. And I can probably speak for everyone of how much you've amplified our life. So I just want to give you first and foremost gratitude, because what I'm about to say, I wouldn't be where I am without you. 1000% as a friend and as a coach. So thank you. So I'm Bridgitte Carroll. I'm a functional medicine registered dietitian. I specialize in gut health, and that's what I came to Jess for a year and some change ago, to grow my gut health coaching business. And in my first call with Jess, we really talked about my passion for empowering other women in wellness to grow their business. So I did a little pivot as I joined the program and was doing business coaching, which I'm so obsessed with. And also gut health coaching. Fast forward 14 months, and I really set a goal for myself to make my first million in the same time frame that Jess did. Like literally, guys, I was looking at her Instagram bio a year and a half ago, or I don't even know when this was, in 2020, and it said first million in 18 months. And I ended up hitting that as well. You know, I got in the room with Jess. I was so empowered by my expander, and I hit that too. And that's been an incredible financial journey and such a journey of calling my shot and serious empowerment. After I hit the first million, I came up with my next really big idea. I realized that I was just a really well-paid employee within my business. So I at the end of last year, I was like, I really want to build a business to sell and a business that really is truly scalable. So what Jess was talking about, my physical product company, I just started building a brand of gut health supplements. We are actually doing fundraising. We're majority female funded. We're actually in the middle of fundraising, which is crazy humbling. And it's been an incredible ride.
Unbelievable. And it's not a competition, but I do have to just acknowledge you because you did it in 16 months. So just insane. And now you're raising $500,000 for this company, this mission that you're on. And we were fortunate enough to grab dinner last night in person because you're here in Scottsdale right now. And you were telling me all about the vision that you have for Gut Personal. And it is massive, you guys. It is so cool to see. And watching you over the last year, learn things like, oh my gosh, if you're listening right now, don't break out in hives. But Brandi, you probably know a lot of this stuff, but EBITDA and valuations and multipliers. And Bridgitte, you and I both were in Chris Harder's Elite Mastermind at different times. And we both were entered into this Shark Tank competition, which Chris had us do. And I remember telling you about when I was a part of the competition because you were in my mastermind at the time. And I came back to the mastermind and I was telling you guys all about my experience and how I wanted to vomit all over the room. And he made us pitch this business where we had to come up with a valuation and the EBITDA and the multipliers. And I was up in the hotel room until like 2:00 in the morning, Googling and YouTubing and crying because I didn't know how to do any of this stuff. And we went into the room the next day and we had to present. And of course, my girlfriend Sam went up first and crushed it. Like she absolutely killed it. And she set the bar really, really high. And so I was texting Mike and I was freaking out, asking him if he could help me. And I didn't know what to do. And I wanted to present and I didn't have any slides. And I was presenting a made up business. So I wasn't presenting something that was a real business. I was one of my crazy, stupid ideas. And long story short, I ended up winning the competition, which is really, really cool. And it was this little wink from the universe to say like, go for it, which I haven't yet. But I remember coming back and telling you about it. And then when you joined Chris's mastermind, he had you do the same thing. And you presented something for Gut Personal, which wasn't a business yet. It was just a crazy, stupid idea. And you too won. And now you're here.
Yeah, I think that goes to show the power of using people as your expanders. And when I say that, I mean looking at someone, looking at what we're doing, whether it's, us 8 women in the Zoom room or looking at Jess on social media. What I've done in my business, in my life, is looked at someone, saw what they did and said, and I can too. She's showing me what's possible. And Jess, you've done that for me all along the way. I was able to hit the $1 million in 16 months. I was able to win Shark Tank because you did too. You opened the door for me. And then I learned from you and hired you to get that advice.
It's so good. And it's so interesting too, because an expander, and I love that you always use this word, an expander doesn't have to be someone that's ahead of you or above you or better than you. An expander can be any one of you are expanders for me. I'm looking at you, you have an app and you've got a book and your parents, like all of these things that you've done, you're all expanders for me. So think for a moment when you're listening to this episode and just recognize who are the people in your life that expand you. And the cool thing is they get to also be people that they don't even know you exist. And I think for so many people, when I hear the word mentor, this is what I think of. I don't know if this is a true definition, but to me, a mentor doesn't necessarily know that you exist. A mentor doesn't necessarily have an investment in your goal or your transformation. They're not invested in it because oftentimes, like I said, they don't know you exist. It's not that you don't pay them, because maybe you do. Maybe you've taken masterclasses and courses and workshops, but they're not in a relationship with you like maybe a coach would be. And so for me, I've had mentors for years that don't even know that I'm following, or I have bought their programs and they don't even know that I'm a part of it, but they expand what is possible for me. And I just love that so much. So I'd love to shift gears. Oh, I have a hand up. Yeah, go ahead, Mary.
I wanted to say something.
I love this.
Mostly because I wanted to acknowledge Bridgitte for something. So Bridgitte and I went through that higher level mastermind together, and I saw her through her explosion to the $1 million in 16 months. So I don't think I've ever said this to you. But I don't remember when it was, but I just started thinking about how can I level up my life. Let me just ask people in my life who I've seen kind of explode and say, what's the one thing, ask them the question, what's the one thing that you did that helped you get from where you were to where you are? And Bridgitte, the friend that she is, said to me a few different things, but one thing that really stuck was she said, when I was able to go all in on my business, everything changed for me. And I think you said that to me around October, November. So I've been planning on leaving my job for a year. I gave them a year notice. I'll be leaving at the end of May. But when Bridgitte said that to me, it was almost like I was like, oh, I'm going to be okay. Because I think there's a lot of worry and fear attached to like, how come it's not happening for me right this second? And what that moment gave to me was that I realized I'm at my capacity of how much I can do while working full time. So, which is pretty damn good of where I was at working, building this business. I mean, just to say that I made more money in my side hustle than I did in my full-time job, that's kind of a big deal. And I think that I wasn't really allowing myself to acknowledge that. It said to me, when I was able to go all in on my job, everything changed, and it will for you too. It was almost like, all right, I can trust this. I know that I'm going to be able to do this. I know things are going to happen. I even know that now I'm in a spot where I can start paying attention to my business again. Things are going to happen for me. Yeah. So it's the power of not just, you mentioned the power of being in the room with other people and also not being a competition, right? Like I am not a 7-figure earner. I'm very far away from it today. It doesn't mean that that's how it will always be. But I think that that's still the stuff that when you get into rooms with people who are just doing things different, it allows you to borrow evidence as to how it's possible for you too, and also to see that moment and get that shift. So thank you, Bridge, for seeing me, but also thanks for having the container, Jess, where Bridgitte and I got to be in the same room together, because I think that was a huge game changer for me.
Yeah. And, Mary, you just said something that I want to shed light on for a second. So you had mentioned that you're not a 7-figure business owner yet. And what I want to say to the person listening is sometimes people don't even want that. So you might be listening right now, and that might not be interesting to you. You might not desire to have a team or to scale to 7 figures or anything like that. And that's okay. And something that we talk about all the time in our conversations, in our coaching, is that awareness is everything, right? And I know I'm looking at Andi here, the therapist, because I know she digs what I'm about to say, but it's having that awareness. People will ask me oftentimes, like, what did you do to scale to multiple 7 figures? What got you over the first hump of the first 7 figures? And really, truly, your business is a reflection of you, and your business will only grow to the extent that you grow. And so the more that I've learned about myself and the deeper the relationship that I've grown with myself and understanding with myself, those other things have grown. But we get people in our containers all the time who quite frankly, they just want to make like $200 a month to help out at home. They're really just trying to make an extra $1,000 to not stress over the mortgage. And so we call these a carrot. And so whatever your carrot is, that thing that you're chasing, which I always think is funny that it's a carrot, because who would, aside from me, like who would actually chase a carrot on a treadmill? I don't know. Most people probably, oh, you too. Okay, perfect. I'm not alone. Yeah. Oh, carrot cake. Yeah. Most people, I think it's like a cookie, right? But whatever it is that you're chasing, that vanity metric, that goal that you have, it's to not judge your carrot, because I'm looking at Tatiana right now, who's a trainer. And I know she would probably agree. I was a trainer for 18 years. Never, not once did I ever have a client who came into the gym who wanted to start working with me for something that wasn't a vanity metric. They always come in to change their physical body. I want toned arms. I want to look stronger. I want to feel stronger. I want to lose weight. I want to tone my belly. I want to lose the baby weight, right? Whatever that might be, they're coming in for a vanity metric. And over time, when they put in the reps and they start to see the results and the endorphins and all the amazing things that start happening, they're sleeping better and their sex life is better and all this stuff is changing, then do they start to come in because they're like, oh no, this is just part of what I do. This is therapy. This is what makes me feel unstoppable. But the carrot for them at the beginning was, I want to change the way that I look. And so a lot of times people, when they come into business, are looking for a financial hit. And whether that's, I want to make 7 figures, or I just need to make an extra 500 a month, don't judge where you're at and do not judge your carrot. Because if you're listening right now and you have no intention, no desire to build a team, you actually love your 9-to-5 job and you don't want to leave your 9-to-5 job, that's okay. This is your journey. And so you're allowed to feel that. You're allowed to still listen to what these women have to say, and you can still take things away from what they have to say and implement it into your own life for where you're at. So that said, I want to talk to the 2 parents that we have here. So we've got 2 incredible parents here, and I have worked with so many hundreds and thousands of clients that are either new parents, aspiring parents, or have been parents for a really long time. And I'm not one yet. So it's really easy for me to say, oh, sure, you could do it. You can make it happen, because I've seen other people do it, but I haven't done it yet. So I'd love to talk to the 2 of you, because I also believe both of you became parents around the time that we were working together. So I sort of saw the journey from beginning, if you will, of, becoming pregnant, going through that journey, having a baby, and now both of you having these, I guess, toddlers. Is that the correct age? 2, 3 is a toddler. So you've built your businesses while literally becoming a parent. And I want to talk about that. So Sandra, I'm going to ask you to go first, because when we started talking to each other a couple of years ago, not only were you had just overcome something, which I'd love you to share if you're open to sharing, and it put you on this trajectory to wanting to help other people. You were becoming a brand new mom, and you live in Dubai, which is like 100 million hours different than where we are in the United States. So there were a ton of objections for you coming into a program to say that you literally don't have the time, you can't be on the live calls, and you're about to have this baby. And oh, by the way, I'm also going through something personally. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I think actually when we spoke, so when I joined Empower, it was November 2020, I think it was. Yeah, it's November 2020. So it was actually just after. So when my daughter was born right before the pandemic hit. So February 2020, she was born. And in June of 2020, obviously with the madness of like postpartum, becoming a new parent, postpartum hit me really hard. And also both my husband and I were both out of a job, obviously. So there was a lot of stress going on. And in June 2020, I also got diagnosed with stage 1 thyroid cancer. And I think that for me was like, well, I mean, besides the fact, obviously, that it was cancer, but I was also a new mom. I was also I had no clue what I was going to do post-pandemic, during pandemic. I had no idea what I was doing, navigating my life, basically. And then that came, and it was like a massive sort of wake-up call, because first of all, I'm so grateful that I was able to have a surgery in Dubai. I didn't have to travel for a surgery during the pandemic with a baby. I found an incredible surgeon. I went through surgery, and I'm super grateful that we caught it early. And by September, I was done with my surgery. So 2 months later, I spoke to Jess. And I think after my surgery, it was like that moment where I was like, okay, I've clearly gone through this for a reason. Like, I'm a huge believer of everything happens for a reason. And this was like a sign for me. I had been doing coaching before. I got certified before the pandemic, but I had no idea what I was doing with my coaching. And obviously, being a new mom, I was like, how am I ever going to start a business as a new mother? So I spoke to Jess, and I was like, you know what? I just need someone to tell me what to do and just guide me. And I think Empower was honestly the best decision I've ever made. One of the best decisions I've ever made in my life, because first of all, it was not just the program. And like, it was not just the program for guiding me, helping me get my business, helping me like organize my thoughts. But it was also the fact that when I spoke to Jess, and I remember telling her, like, through this whole time, I had a massive identity crisis. Obviously I'm a health coach. I've been advocating health for this many years. I'm telling you to take care of yourself. And here I am getting diagnosed with cancer. So it was like a massive, like, what the hell moment. And how is anyone ever going to believe anything that I say because I got cancer? And I remember Jess told me, she was like, that is your story. That is why people are going to come to you, because they need that. They need someone who's been through that. And I remember that was like a huge perspective shift that literally changed my life. And I realized, like, oh my God, this was the whole reason why this happened. And, once I shared my story, like, the influx of women that messaged me and said, oh my God, I just went through this. Oh my God, it's so good to see someone sharing this story on social media. Oh my God, thank you for being so open. And I was literally floored and overwhelmed and like super grateful that, like, I had no idea that this would have even happened had I not actually changed that perspective. And I have to, like, I'm forever grateful to Jess for that. And yeah, here I am 2 years later. I have a successful coaching business. I've helped hundreds of women. I have not only helped women with thyroid issues, but I've also spoken on panels. I've, presented to health insurance companies. So I've really, like, I'm trying to get more and more awareness, especially in this region where we're still like very private. Women, feel afraid to share these things. So for them to see women sharing their experiences and being vulnerable and not caring what people think, and like telling everyone that it's okay, we don't have to have this like facade of perfection, because we're not perfect. Like, we all go through shit. And the more that we can share that, the more that we can help each other. And that was like a huge thing for my community, my followers. And yeah, the first year of business, I crossed 6 figures, which was like huge as a new mom. I was joining coaching calls at like 12 in the morning, waking up at 5 in the morning to be a parent. And still, like, I still look back on those days and I'm like, how on earth did I do that? So yeah, you got to do what you got to do. And if you truly believe what your mission is and what your vision is and have the right guidance. And like, again, that's why I'll forever thank Jess and like the group of women that were in our cohort. And I still speak to them, and we're still, supporting each other outside of Empower. That community doesn't, like, I'll be forever grateful for it. And yeah, that's the story.
Thank you for sharing it. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I can see everyone's faces on the screen, and most people didn't know because we don't actually all know each other. Mm-hmm. And I can't help but think, what was the thing? What was the hump? What was the hurdle? What did you have to get over to finally to invest in yourself in such a crazy time? So you have this newborn, you don't have a job. Rob is out of job. So you and your husband both are out jobs. And you're navigating cancer, and you're like, yep, this is a great time. This is the perfect time to do it. So what did that look like? Like, what was that conversation?
Well, it was like, actually a lot of it was actually Rob who helped push me, because he sort of set the example, obviously, as a new dad and like responsible for a family. And like, I was postpartum, and he got hit with the pandemic, obviously, as a trainer. And he was like, I can't go train anyone. I've got to pivot really quickly, and I've just got to get online. And that was the first thought he had. And so for like the first 18 months during the pandemic, he was literally online in an online program for about 12 hours a day, doing work online, setting up this huge program online, setting up all the back end. And I would sit there and I'd be like, how are we going to do this? And I was freaking out. And then I saw that he actually did it. and he started, he got that guidance, and he had like the educational part of it. And to be honest, he was the one that pushed me. And I remember that I had told him, I was like, I need help and I don't know how to do it. And he was like, get a coach. Like, you've got to get a coach. You've got to just help someone, because he was trying to help me. And every time he'd tell me something, I'd be like, oh, that's not going to work for me. Shut up. And he's like, but we're doing the same exact thing.
You don't understand.
And I was like, no, I need a coach. So I just kind of like bit the bullet, and I was like, listen, I'll take whatever savings I've got. I'll throw it in that. And I truly believed that this was like, it's got to work. Right. Yeah. And I think the most important thing was that when I did speak to you, we connected. And again, that's like something that you always talk about, even in your programs and as a mentor and as a coach, is like, people buy from you. You are the asset, right? Mm-hmm. So when you can connect with people, that's already like, what you're doing is already sold. Because, and that to me was like, I didn't care what you were doing in Empower. I think I came into Empower thinking you're going to help me be like a one-on-one coach. Mm-hmm. And you were like, no, my dear, we're going to be doing group coaching. So I didn't even care, because like I connected with you and I was like, I'm sold.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for me, it was just like an impulse decision. I just knew that it was right. And yeah, I remember even like paying the night you told me, like, this is the payment plan. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, then obviously I was like, holy shit, what am I doing? I don't need to
buyer's remorse, freaking out. Yeah. So I think for the person listening though, it's, oh, it must be nice. Like, I can feel people listening. Oh, it must be nice. You had a supportive husband who said you should do it, who had belief in you. You had a savings, right? And so I think it's really important. Mary said something earlier that I know I always say, which is she borrowed the evidence. And so if you're sitting here right now and you don't have that type of support, that doesn't mean that you can't do it. It means you get to borrow the support from other people. You get to borrow the evidence that other people have done it. And I think there's a difference between, this is a conversation for a different day, but when we talk about handling objections in sales, there are objections that are circumstance, it's real life. And then there are objections that it might be fear of coming up for that person, where they're creating these excuses. And so when you're looking at someone and you're going, oh, well, it must be nice. Rob was already doing it and he kind of had a framework and he believed in you and he was supporting you and you had a savings, must be nice, right? You get to also say, where can I look in my life for evidence from other people? Where can I look for borrowed support from other people? And it doesn't always have to be a financial investment to get those things. So I want to shift gears for a second. I appreciate you sharing that. I know, Andi, you're going to have to pop off and I want you to share for sure. So Andi who's also a parent, in another situation as a parent where the parents out there, I don't know how you do it. You came in a very interesting position, similar in the sense that you kind of had a lot on the line. So would you share a little bit of what that looked like? And then what you did to kind of overcome what was coming up for you, or rather, what would you tell yourself now back then, knowing maybe how scared you were?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. The postpartum, when Sandra was sharing about that, I related so much. So my husband actually was laid off from his job 3 weeks prior to me having our son. And this was in December of 2019. So right before the pandemic hit. Pandemic came March 2020. He's still out of work. And I ended up getting laid off from my full-time job. I did have a side private practice that I had for nearly 10 years. And I remained in my full-time job because that's what you do, right? That's what's safe. That's what's secure. If you want stability for your family, if, that health insurance, that's a reason to stay, right? And I, dreamt and would daydream about one day going full time. And I just never pulled the plug. And so what I say is that last day of March in 2020, I'm like, God, universe, whatever you want to call, the divine swooped in and said, all right, Andi, like, you haven't been listening to me for far too long. And so I'm going to shove you into this. and I was laid off from my job. So here we were, postpartum also hit me just so hard. I was very depressed, massive anxiety, and navigating the new world of motherhood. And now we're jobless and no income coming in. And I looked down at my baby and I'm like, all right, here we go. I've got to figure this out. And if there's one thing that can force you to take action, it's your child. And so I said, this is it. I ended up having a panic attack one day, the day before I reached out to Jess. And I was in a state where my husband really was the one that was like, you have to get out of bed. You need to brush your teeth. I couldn't make simple decisions. Like, it's time to feed the baby. I was heavily relying on him. And I eventually came to this point where I'm like, okay, I can either continue living in this state of panic, or like I can receive this blessing. And I can turn what feels like one of the worst seasons of my life into the greatest one. And that's when I reached out to Jess the next day. And I said, what do you have to offer? Right? Like, what is this business stuff you're doing? Because I had no idea. I just knew you, as you mentioned at the start of the call, from fitness industry, and you're in this business world, and I trusted you. It had been so many years, and it felt like in a season where everything was so unstable that unknowingly for you were my stability. I felt like the Empower container held me. And so I joined at a time where I didn't have the money, right? It was really, really scary, but this was a back against the wall moment. And did I have a choice? Sure. Could I have continued a search for another, job as an employee? Absolutely. Could I have just collapsed and given up? Absolutely. But I did make a choice to say, I need to trust myself. I need to trust myself. And so I began relying on a bunch of different practices, people, containers to form my own stability, right? To form safety in a time that felt so unsafe. And so I joined Empower. In 3 months, I was full-time. Like, I made my investment back in 3 weeks of joining. And now I've gotten to a point where I would have to try really hard not to have a 5-figure month. It feels easy. Has the process been easy? No, but the money coming in each month to a level that I only imagined for the last decade is now a reality and feels very easy coming in. And I am just so, so grateful for that. Actually, a year ago, next month my husband will be home full time for a whole year at this point. So last April, we brought him home, and I'm like, just going all in, and it feels surreal. And also, like, of course we're here, because when you invest energy and time into yourself, and when you create your life in a way that does hold you, whether that's a program of people that you can rely upon, right? Practices that you're doing, meditation, getting in nature, things that recenter you, things that calm your nervous system, then this is what happens. So I am forever grateful. And it's still a pinch me moment every day. I wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't have to report to anyone else. What? This feels so fun. So here we are.
So when you decided to take that action step, when you were like,
I have a decision to make, because you could go get a job, right? And I think that's something that people miss is like the worst case scenario is you could, all of us, anyone listening, you could go get a job. It might not be one that you like. It might not be one that you went to school for. It might not be one that lights you up, but all of us could go get a job. Whether you're at a retail store, you're at a waitress, a server, barista, like we can all go get a job. We absolutely could. So when you made the decision to take action and you were like, I'm going to go all in on myself for my family, was retiring Jordan part of the plan? Was going full-time in business, was hitting a certain revenue goal part of the plan? Or were you just like, the plan is to get out of the essential hole that you're feeling like you were in?
Yeah, at that time, I mean, had I dreamt of those things, like I said, I had been dreaming of these things for years and years, but never took the step to make them a reality. But at that specific time, I was in such a state of survival that it truly was just next step. What's the next thing I can do? The very next thing. And the reason I think, that I chose to go in on myself, right, versus looking for that job, is I was never going to let this happen to us again. Never. It wasn't an option. Ooh, I will never put all of my eggs in that job basket for me personally. Yeah. And I realized that all of this time, the security was in myself. I was never going to lay myself off. I'm not firing myself, not today, not ever. And so to have that much empowerment and that much security and knowing, it's an inner knowing that I can make this happen. I have the resources within me. Yeah. I have everything I need inside of me, right? Whether that's the ability to ask questions and ask for help, or a true, like in all the answers within, it's all there. I am whole. Right? I am not lacking anything. And that's what each step I took, I'm like, oh, right? Oh, I can do this. And then one more step. Oh my goodness, it's happening. And I did that thing. I didn't die, right? One more step. I did that thing. I didn't die. And that's really what it was, is I am the security. And so I wasn't going to put us back in that situation.
It's so good. And I just have the visual, you all know it's my favorite quote. I share it all the time, but the visual that Steve Jobs, his quote, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards, and you have to trust that you'll appear. And you were just like one step. So I love that so much. And I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing in the world, but the way that you show up and inspire other people, other moms, both of our parents that are on here. So I'm going to shift it up a little bit over here. I'm going to shake it up a little bit. So Miss Brandi comes into our program, and she is a silent killer. So she goes through the program, never sharing. We are huge advocates for sharing our wins, whether they're financial or non-financial, like you book a podcast or you have a really great day, right? Quiet as a mouse. Yeah, exactly. So we encourage everybody to share our wins. And at the very end, when we're getting ready for our big graduation call, we tally up all the financial wins, because we like to keep track and data of our students. So we know how many millionaires we've created and how much millions of dollars we've created and impact in this world. And little Miss Brandi comes on our graduation call, never having said anything about any of her financial wins. And she drops a bomb on us that she had a $96,000 launch. $96,000 launch on her first beta launch ever. So I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable now, but I asked permission. You said it was okay. You actually said you didn't even remember the number, but I do, because it's a story I tell all the time. So you had this $96,000 launch, and you were quiet as a mouse. You were on calls. You did all of your homework. You did everything you were supposed to do, but you weren't a needy student or client. You weren't sitting in the front of the class, raising your hand on every single call. But you were just doing the work, and clearly it worked. And here you are 3 years later with a thriving business that you've pivoted multiple times. So can you talk to me about what it was for you? So maybe is it that you're more introverted? Did you just not feel comfortable sharing? Like, what type of mindset did you have to come into a program that you were like, I'm just going to do what I got to do, and I'm going to see if it works?
Yeah, no, I'm the opposite of introverted. So that is always that's interesting to say, because I don't know if I could do my job, what I do now, and be introverted, because the the pandemic was so hard for me because I was like at home by myself, and I'm like, my dog doesn't talk back to me. Fun fact. Been trying, but to be honest, I have always been a person to just keep my head down and keep moving. I think I come from the startup world. I've been in startups since I left college. I was an athlete before that. And my whole life had been just keep your head down and keep moving. And to be honest, it didn't even register to me that I had hit the financial goal until I had looked at the numbers, because every day was just like, here, I'm talking to someone about it. I really want to work with this person. I'm getting the processes in place. I was working full time while I launched. And so there was no time to reflect, honestly. I just was like, here's the day. I have 12 hours that I have to get my full-time job that was going through a bankruptcy and also get my business up and running. And then I was managing a team of 45 people at my full-time job. And so I'm just like, I don't have time to think. I just have to keep going. And I remember for the graduation call, and they're like, what's your financial win? I was like, I have no idea. I literally hadn't even kept track. And I was like, what is, and I went into and I was like, oh, that's okay. Well, here's what I did. And then honestly, I remember sending that over and being like, okay, I have 6 calls I have to go get on. I have a client who needs me to review a pitch deck. And then when we got on the call, you were like, really? And I was like, sorry. And I honestly think I grew up in a family that never talked about money. So also like financials have never been a motivator for me. I've never wanted to be a 6-figure owner. I've never wanted to have a 7-figure business. That's never been a motivation to me. It's always been, you need to be able to take care of yourself. So whatever that looks like, and you need to be happy doing it. So I was like, I'm happy. I'm having a great time, but fun fact, I can also maybe pay off those student loans now because I can just do that because I can. And so it really didn't click to think about the financial gain at all. That was never something that I thought to think about. It was, who am I working with? Am I excited to work with them? Do I love what I'm doing? And do I want to wake up and do it every single day? That was the only thing I wanted to be doing. And the money was just the bonus, which I think it's because my relationship with money, like I love Mary because she really talks about this a lot. Your relationship with money will change how the money comes in. And growing up, we never talked about money. It was never a motivation for anything. And so it's just never been a part of my story. It's always just been, be able to take care of yourself for yourself. And if you can do that and you can be happy doing it, you're killing it. So I was like,
I love this because my question that I wanted to ask you, so many times people want to work with kids. They want to work with moms. They want to work with populations or demographics that they can't, and I'm saying this in quotes, can't afford their program. So you are working with college kids right now. And so there's probably this really big misconception that college kids don't have money, because a lot of them don't, right? Like they're in college. Maybe they have a job, but come on, ramen noodles is a thing in college for a reason. So how have you overcome this idea? Is it even true in your world that these college kids can't afford your program? Did you have to adjust your price point for them? Like, what does that all look like?
Well, it's interesting working with them because I can work with their deals in a very creative way as well when it comes to the financial piece. But working with elite athletes, they have a goal, they have focus, they have mission. They may not be wealthy today, but one NIL deal can really change the course of their life. And so when I work with them or their parents or their coaches, because they're all an audience for me, right? The coaches are an audience, the parents are an audience, the players are like there, but usually most of the objective is parents. And so a lot of these parents luckily haven't had to pay for their college. And so when they get to talk with me, usually I do a call with the student athlete, and then the next call is with the parent because they want to be able to help their student do what's best for them. And a lot of the parents I work with have no idea how to navigate this world. And so being able to speak and have that conversation with them, a lot of the parents are willing. They're saying, here it is. Make sure that they're set up for success, because so many college students, they play these 4 years of sports, they're dedicated, and then they don't have any path next. They don't have next steps. They don't know where they're going. They don't know how they can transfer what they've done in college into a career. Yeah. And they also being able to make endless amounts of money in college is a scary and very dangerous thing, right? Yeah. Because this tax season alone, I have had more calls with, we have to file your taxes, because they've never had to do that before. Sure. And they're like, how do you do that? They don't teach us that in college. I'm like, no, they really don't. They really
don't.
Should,
they don't. Yeah.
They don't. So it's actually been an easier sales process than working with entrepreneurs as my first round was.
Interesting. And so you kind of said that the parents are often involved in this process and sort of part of the decision making. If that's the case, are you targeting and marketing towards the parent or just the athlete or both?
I target more the athlete. I think a lot of them resonate with me as a person, working with, especially those who come from the Black community. These are not conversations they have, right? A lot of them don't have people in their lives who they can have a conversation with about how do I make a brand deal? Should I work with a brand? And I target them because I speak to them. I'm not a parent, so I can't speak from that angle in any way, shape, or form. Occasionally I'll ask my mom, like, hey, what did you think about this when I was younger? But mostly it is speaking with the athletes. And I also, because I started coaching, I can speak to the coaches as well, which is a really awesome opportunity because there's a moment for me to actually teach them how to be better coaches. And so there's this leadership angle with them that I'm able to really tap into and how they can be a guiding light for a lot of these athletes. And help them develop what's coming next in their career. So I'm working with a lot of high school coaches as well, which is the schools pay for you to work with coaches. So that's incredible. A different revenue stream.
Yeah. And it's so exciting to see how we can diversify our revenue streams, but how we can also diversify like our lead generation. And we think of digital business or coaching. And so many times people think of, I have to create a group course or have one-on-ones and I post on social media and that's all that I do. And that's just not the case, like not even close to the case. I just saw a bunch of a shaking of the head. All of you are disagreeing or agreeing, right? That's not the only way. So I love how you've sort of navigated the business over the last couple of years, allowed yourself to pivot and really expand the impact that you're making, the audience that you're serving, and the way that you're serving people. So I acknowledge you.
Thank you. Honestly, I was working. It's interesting is people ask me, you had such a high volume business and it seems like you really loved what you were doing. And it's not that I don't love working with small businesses and entrepreneurs. I will still take on a one-on-one client in that regard for someone I'm super passionate about or excited about what they're doing. So Bridgitte, if you ever want to talk about fundraising, happy to have a conversation.
Yes.
I have been through, I don't know how many rounds of fundraising with clients. So happy to go through that with you if you want any advice. But there was something in me that said I just wanted to work with college students. I wanted to work with athletes again. Maybe it's because I fell back into getting back into shape and working out. And I just was like, there has to be more that we can do for them because they were just getting thrown this huge ocean of opportunity that could make or break a lot of their futures. And I was like, as a student athlete, when I was younger, I would have loved to have someone who was like, do this so we can set yourself up for success for a long time, not for a short time. So, I love waking up and they are some of the most dedicated people. They've inspired me, honestly. I don't know how they manage schedules and it seems impossible what they're doing. So
it's amazing. And it's so cool. It's just proof too, like there are so many little micro niches inside niches inside niches inside niches. Like we can just do anything. Like it's endless. So I love it. Thank you for sharing. I know T, I want to make sure we get a quick question in for you. So I'm throwing this one at you. I didn't have you prepare it. I hope you're ready. So Tatiana, you have an app, you have a fitness app, and I would love to know, looking back, either 3 of the biggest tips or 3 of the biggest mistakes that you have made for someone that wants to put an app out there, because so many people come to me and they want to create an app. So what could you tell someone that's looking to starting their own app?
So you know what? I look back at it 2 years ago and I always say there's so many things that I could have done better, but it was just pandemic. You just roll with it. And I wish I had known there was a lot more work involved with it. I thought it would be so easy, film my workouts and work out with T. And it's like nothing like that. I spend more time behind the computer than actually like doing the workouts. I wish I had known or had a little bit more guidance with my app because again, I was just thrown into it. I learned it all by myself. I'm on the back end. I'm like, oh, what are these codes? Why am I encoding things? So if there's something I would tell anyone who is looking to start an app is actually do your research and know that you're going to put a lot of hours in. I work morning till night nonstop on this app. And it's a huge commitment. If there's something that I could change differently was probably just, I don't think I would have done anything different because it was such a huge learning curve. Yeah. It was just so many things that I didn't know, like angles of the camera, lighting, what program to use, what editing should I have, what team should I have behind me to support me with marketing? Should we do ads, no to ads, yes to ads, our email marketing? There's just so much that goes into it, but I'm so happy to be where I am right now because that learning curve made me smarter and stronger within the app.
So for someone that wants to start an app, are they literally Googling like how to start an app? Did you have to get a developer? Like, what did that look like for you?
So the developers came to me and asked if I was interested in creating an app. And I was like, oh my God, this is my dream. Like, of course, yes, I'm going to do it. I don't even care how much it is. I want to do it. This has been my dream. And I remember saying this to Jess on our like first call. And she's like, so what do you want to do? I was like, I would love a fitness app.
And you're still running your group coaching program too. So does one feed the other, whether that's with clients or financially?
Yeah. So what I love, I have my funnel, I have my high ticket Move Better, then I have like my evergreen Move Better sprint, and then my Training with T app. And they all happen. Most of my clients are running through that entire funnel.
It's incredible. And when you have things like wanting to rent a studio or hire a videographer, the digital products that have such low overhead, your coaching programs, right? They have such low overhead. They almost get to fund things to do in the app. So it's like almost like one branch of your business is funding the other branch. And I'm looking at Bridgitte right now because I know that's the case for her as well. It's like the coaching is actually funding the dream thing that you wanted to do. Not to say you don't love coaching or it's not a dream job, but for so many people in this digital landscape, that's what I want you to see. It's like, you can't connect the dots looking forward. It's almost a means to an end. It's a way to build a platform and know, like, and trust, authority and credibility. It's a place to have leads and clients and testimonials. And then financially, you're literally bringing in cash to create your own capital for the next thing that you want to go do or build. So has that been something where you're like, oh, thank God for the coaching?
Yes. 1,000%. Yes. So, I would also like for people to know when you're starting an app, it's really difficult to go, not even break even, but like the first 2 years are going to be the hardest years. And I've definitely felt it. And I'm getting so close to breaking even with just the app. This is not including coaching or anything, but all my coaching has been funneling and funding my app. And that's how I'm like, all right, this is how it's going to grow. There's no other way. And I'm not going to back out now. I'm
so proud of you for seeing that and for sticking with it, because it's so easy to get distracted with the shiny object or the new thing, right? Like, I'm going to go do the app and I'm going to go all in. So real quick, how did you decide to not take that leap where you're like, no, I have to do what we were talking about earlier, which is I have to essentially burn the boats and go all in on the app? Like, how have you been able to manage the energy in both businesses?
Yeah, it's a huge energy shift. And I know Jess had said this like a while ago, like right when we started, like when we're in launch mode, we have to cater our energy pre-launch, launching, and then after, but then how do we shift gears? Like I was trying to figure out, how do I stop talking about the app and then start talking about Move Better, which is corrective exercise. And I always had to do everything by season. So I wanted to capture everyone's attention for the app, new challenges. We were always in a launch calendar, me and my team. And I think it was really important for me to tap into exactly what I'm launching and what I have to offer. So I think scheduling is very important for this. Yeah. And I love the part that you said seasons, because we do have seasons in our business and our launch. We have seasons in all of these different areas. And what I think many struggling entrepreneurs struggle with, one of the challenges, is that they're anticipating, expecting, and wanting everything to happen at the same time. And so it's that comparing someone's chapter 10 to your chapter 1. And so often we get entrepreneurs or coaches that come to our programs, or I just speak with them in conversations, and they're so frustrated and they're so hard on themselves that they don't have
the ascension model that you just created for yourself, which is a high level, coaching program, then an evergreen coaching program in the app. And they want all of those things right then and there. They want them yesterday. But the reality of it, it's taken you years to create 4 years to create all these different little pieces that now make up the ascension model that we see on the outside. So for the person who wants it all and wants it all right now, T, what would you say to them?
I say, take your time, because consistency is key. And then you'll start to build and decide what you want to start first. And I'm so happy I started with high ticket. I think it taught me the skills that I really needed, running my own business on the back end, and also how I'm showing up on social media. And then everything starts to come down. I started high ticket, fitness app, and then evergreen just to fill out the middle portion of it.
It's so good. And the reason I love the high ticket group coaching so much too, is it's the easiest thing to leverage. You're impacting the most amount of people in the smallest amount of time. You're also able to make the most amount of money in the smallest amount of time, right? You're not trading your time for money, dollar for dollar. Typically, the overhead is really low to none. So your profit margins are huge. It gives you an insane amount of client testimonials and feedback so that you can tweak moving forward. And then leveraging, right? Like we said before, it's like you could take that program that you created, you can sell pieces of it, you could turn it evergreen, you can scale up from it, you could scale down from it. So I'm always a huge advocate for coaching programs being the first thing that we build out, and then you fill in the fluff after. So I love it. I'm so proud of you. I love it. I love it. All right. We've got 2 more ladies that I want to chat with here. So we're digging in over here. Miss Mary, she came in thinking she was going to build one thing, and she was lightly encouraged to build a different. So what would you say to the person who is so dead set on building something, but maybe that's actually not the best path or the best idea, and maybe there's something else for them out there? How were you able to sort of let go of the ego of thinking that you were going to be creating something in the event space when some coach somewhere in the world encouraged you to go the accountability route and habits route?
For me, it was finally listening to whether you want to call it a nudge or a whisper or the feelings, like when your body is just kind of is feeling that resistance, it's all a sign. And I think we've all heard the saying, what you resist persists. And so when I was resisting this other thing that kept kind of popping up for me in all these other ways, it was making it very difficult to make this other thing, this other business that I quite frankly thought it was the only thing I had permission to do.
Oh, say that again.
Which was, So, I'll start with, I've been an event person since I was 18 years old. I always thought that was exactly what my future was. I always thought that I was going to own my own event production company. I just had that dream and that vision for so long. And then when I actually did try and start to build that side business that could eventually become the full business, it wasn't working. And by wasn't working, meaning it didn't feel good to talk about it on social media. It didn't feel good to try and talk to potential clients on a sales call. It didn't feel good. It just all did not feel good. And I think that for me at the time, I thought that was just the hustle. I thought that was just the way business tends to be, is that it was just really hard. And I thought, and when I kept getting these little whispers or these moments or, even inquiries from other people saying, hey, what about life coaching? What about stepping into this other kind of space? I was like, oh no, I could never do that. I don't have the background. I don't have the certificate. I don't have what you're supposed to have in order to step into that space. What I do have is 15 years of event experience and this whole vision that I've had since I was 15 years old that I was supposed to do all these other things. So I just thought it was the only thing I was allowed to do, had permission to do, could do, had the experience to do.
Sure. So this is imposter, right? Like you felt like an imposter doing anything else, right?
I thought, no way I could be somebody's life coach or accountability coach or mindset coach when I don't have a degree in psychology or I didn't know what you needed to do in order to have the right to do that. But what actually happened was that, and this is the whole conversation about connecting the dots, looking back instead of forward. If the 7 women who said yes to my program the first round, 3 of them came from my time as a bartender at Buffalo Wild Wings, because you know what I was doing while I was bartending? I was coaching them. I was coaching them while they were sitting at my bar. I was coaching them while they were serving. I was coaching them while they were hostessing or whatever. I would do that too, all because I was like the mom. I was the oldest one of all these college kids. I was in my 30s and they were all in their early 20s. And I'd literally walk up to them and be like, what are you doing with your life? Let's have a conversation. We need to do this. You need to do that. So that when it came time for me to say, hey, I have this program, I'm going to start doing this, they were all like, okay, yes, sign me up, because I need more of that, of what you've already given me. I need more of that in my life. And so as I look back, I said, it's like, oh, there's that evidence that I thought I needed in order to have the permission to go down this other road. And it's been there it's been there all along, not just from my time of Buffalo Wild Wings, but I mean, I was always the one that people were coming to in college to ask and sit and have those coaching sessions, although I didn't know that that's what was happening, right? So I think that there was always a resistance. I thought it was the only thing I could do. And what happened when I allowed myself to consider a different path, which, by the way, I had no idea what this other path looked like. Right? There's still a huge part of me that's like, I have no idea if I wanted a 7-figure business, what would that even look like? If I wanted to continue, you know, which I do, I want this to be my life. I have no idea what it looks like. This is the first time in my life that I've ever allowed myself to have a vision that wasn't specific. Right. And that is, I think, a huge part of this too. It's so important for us to allow ourselves, sorry, guys, I got work emails coming in. If you can hear that. I think this is the first time I'm a planner, event planner. I got to have a big vision and then understand all the little elements that go along with it to make that vision happen. This is the scariest thing I've ever done, is stepping into this world full time, having very little understanding of how I'm going to make this work. However, I think I said this to you before, Jess, that for the first time, I feel like I have a foundation to build from. And because even when I was doing the event stuff, I didn't really feel great about how I was going to build that into a huge, it didn't feel good. But what feels good here is that I feel like I have I know where I'm beginning. I know who I serve. I know how I can help. And somehow, some way, that's going to build into something bigger than me. And so I think that if we go back to that question about like, well, I'm doing this one thing, I think I'd like to do this other thing, but I'm not sure if it's going to work out. Go for the other thing. Alignment. And Brandi was saying that I talk about money all the time. I really do, because it is one of my favorite subjects. And I don't talk about how you should save your money, trust me, or how you should spend your money. I'm talking about how you should feel with your money. And alignment is a huge part of it. As soon as I got aligned with the way in which I invite money into my life, it blew up. It blew up. And even at this point in my life now, where I was still at capacity, money was still flowing into where I was at capacity for kind of building, growing my business. The money was still coming in as needed. And it has never done that before in my life. I've never trusted it that it would, but I just have such a belief now that because I'm so aligned with the way that in which I open up the door to receive that money, that it's going to flow in no problem. And so that's just when you're in alignment and with how you serve and how you welcome in income so that you can live and serve even more and give even more. It's like this ongoing cycle that just never ends. And so I think that the biggest thing is listen to that, listen to the whisper, pay attention to the nudge, listen to the people who are showing up in your life. They're all messengers, and don't ignore it. If there is resistance, pay attention, because
it's so crazy to hear how far you've come, especially with your own money journey. I mean, this coming from a woman who, can I share with how you joined?
Oh yeah, I can say.
Well, you borrowed the money. You borrowed the money to join because you didn't have it, right? So to hear the relationship of how your relationship has changed, hear the story of how your relationship to money has changed is incredible. But the key thing that I'm taking away from this is foundations. And so oftentimes people think, and you're all going to laugh because you're all entrepreneurs, people think that becoming an entrepreneur creates freedom. And they think that if I become my own boss, then I have freedom, whether that's time freedom, financial freedom, career, location, there's freedom of choice, there's opportunities. So people will often chase entrepreneurship. They'll chase becoming a business owner because they want freedom, when the reality of it is, well, first of all, that's not real at all. So whoever told you that, I'm sorry. Being your own boss and running a business and running a team and having, doing all these things, being a CEO, that doesn't create freedom. Structure creates freedom. So structure within the business is the thing that creates the freedom. Systems, automation, team, delegation, right? The structure within your business is the thing that creates the freedom that we're all craving. And so when you're talking about the foundations, that is the structure. So the foundations of the business is the thing that allows you to then go try something new, to pivot, to chase alignment, to make sure you're saying decisions from a place of abundance and growth mindset rather than scarcity and fear and lack, right? Structure in your business is what allowed you, Mary, to then go and write a book while working full time. And by the way, for the listeners, Mary also works in 2 other people's businesses. Mine is one of them. So she's part of the Digital Business Evolution team, as well as another entrepreneur's team. Plus she's got her full-time job. She's got her business that she created, which is a 6-figure business. And then she decided to write a book, but it's the structure that creates the freedom. So those foundations are so, so, so key. And I love that you brought up vision and mission. And I love it so much because I want to bring this home. Get out. Bridgette's shirt says mission, vision. And I'm literally going to bring it home and have Bridget put a bow on everything with mission and vision. That is wild. Thank you, universe. You are so divine. So a lot of times people will ask me what my mission is. Or what's my vision? How did you write your mission statement for your company? And I recently had our mastermind with my mentor, James. And when we were at the mastermind weekend, these are all 7 and multiple 7-figure business owners in this mastermind. One of the girls raised her hand and she said, James, what is the mission of your brand? How did you guys come up with the vision statement for your company? And he kind of giggled. And he said something that I found myself saying by accident, thinking that what I'm about to say was wrong. But we have this pressure that we put on ourselves that our vision has to be so clear and detailed, and that our mission statement has to say exactly when and how many dollars and how many people. And the reality of it is that is not the case at all. So you could have clarity on where you want to go, right? We want to hit that target. For sure. I love to throw numbers in, and we've got stretch goals and we've got safe goals and all of those things. But when I think about mission and vision, I think about it more as a feeling. And so the mission and vision of Digital Business Evolution comes from a feeling of how we want the team to feel, how we want our clients to feel, of course, the impact that we want to make, but it's quite broad. And for the listener right now, I want to give you the permission that you didn't ask for to say your vision can be broad. Because when you try to create this, and yes, I'm getting a yes from Brandi, who teaches this stuff to high level corporations. When you create such a narrow focused vision or mission, sometimes you actually box yourself in. And sometimes you don't allow yourself to think outside this box or to stretch bigger than the container at which you've once created. And so last night I had the pleasure of going out to dinner with Bridget, and we were talking about the vision and mission of her newest venture, Got Personal, which is a product, a physical direct to consumer product. And you shared that vision with me. I don't know if you're willing to share it here, but I'd love if you could share what that vision looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really important. God, this is such an important conversation. When we're talking about the vision and mission, what I'm thinking about, and maybe the person who's listening resonates with this, and this really resonated with me at the beginning of my journey, was that I didn't know the how, but I really did have the vision. And, as I grew my company, I realized those are actually 2 very different people who hold the how and who hold the why. The person who holds the why, that's me, that's probably all of us. We're the visionary.
Yeah, CVO, baby.
Yeah, I just love that so much. And then, the person who holds the how many times is that structure, is that systems, is that processes person who's either a COO or what I call an integrator. So I think one, it's honoring like who you are and when you're creating a company, right? And I think even at the beginning stages, it's important to acknowledge that you don't have to have all of the answers.
Yeah. But hold on, wait, let's stop for 1 second, because there are two different people, and people will often say, I'm a CEO. They're like, oh, you're the CEO of the company. I'm not. Let me just be clear. We have a C-suite. I am not the CEO. I'm the CVO. I'm the visionary officer. We have a CEO. We also have a COO. We have a CFO. So we've got our operations handled. We've got our finances handled, and we've got our executive nonsense that I want nothing to do with handled, right? And I'm okay with being the CVO. I will tell you, it was a little bit of an ego hit at the beginning, though, because you think that you're supposed to be like, I'm the CEO of my business, right? But I'm not. And I'm very happy to pass that off, because it's not my strength. It's not my zone of genius, and it's not where I want to be. I want to be in the visionary role. So let's just clarify for a second two things. Number one, if you're listening and you're confused, the visionary is the person who's saying, I want to go here. I want to go to this island, and it's going to have these palm trees, and it's going to be amazing, and we're going to party on the beach. It's whatever I give an analogy, it always ends up being Santorini or like Mykonos, right? I want to dance to the music, to the really great, like dancing on the tables and the sunset and all the things. The operations person, the integrator, they're the one that's going to help us figure it out. Okay, cool. Well, what are the dates you want to go? Well, let's make sure we get a plane ticket. How many people are going to come with us? Let's make sure that we have food and snacks. Oh, we're going to have to get a cab. And they're the person that's figuring all that out. They're the project manager. So in our team, that's Lauren. Lauren's like the magical unicorn that makes my crazy, stupid ideas come to life. But it doesn't mean that the visionary then doesn't have work to do. It doesn't mean we just sit back and like Lauren makes it happen. I'm telling us where we want to go. She figures out how we're going to get there. And then I have homework to do, right? There's stuff in the middle that comes back to me, or it goes to different people on the team. So Bridgitte, I'd love to ask you, because you have many different hats that you're wearing. For the person listening who's like, I don't have a team. Who is an integrator or an operations manager for a person who has no team?
Yeah. Wow. I don't know that I necessarily have the answer for that. I think it goes back to alignment, like MT was talking about, and intention. Like, what is the intention of growing your business now is going to be different. I mean, you've heard from all of us that we've pivoted in some way, shape, or form, or we've amplified what we're doing. It's giving ourselves that permission to change based on what's aligned for us in that moment. Now, that doesn't mean shiny object syndrome, right? Like we've talked about that. It's aligning with your true purpose. And what I found in growing these businesses is actually I have two purposes: health and wealth, amplifying women's vision of their life through health and wealth. So any company that I have, we have 3 companies right now. Any company that I have is improving the life of women's health and their wealth, whether we're doing it directly or indirectly. I have a, high-level mastermind for women in wellness. I'm making sure they're fed really well. We're exercising every day when we're in person. I'm not necessarily teaching that, but it's an intention of my business because it's a mission.
Right. It's so good, health and wealth. So I want to go back to the question that I asked you, because I would love to just give an answer to my own question. This is what I think. So for the person who doesn't have a team, could it be true? And I'd love like a yes from all you women if you agree, or a no if you disagree. Could it be true that their integrator, their operations manager is actually the course, the program, the coach, or the mentor that they're hiring? Right? Like
systems, the processes,
that's the systems.
Yes. Happening. And I am, and to those who are listening who don't see themselves as a visionary, I am a natural operator. That is, you give me an idea and I can put pen to paper and make it a reality. That is why I am who I am. People say, I have this vision. And I'm like, great. So there's a lot of steps we have to do to make that happen. Let's start with step 1. We can't go to step 12 without 1 through 11. Unfortunately, it's not possible. It's physically impossible. And I think, when I talk to I work with a lot of visionaries. No matter who I'm coaching, I am coaching a visionary. That is what I do. But I'm the opposite, where I'm like, right, so the clouds, but we need, how are we getting on the plane? Like, where is the plane? Do we have a plane? Is it existing? And a lot of it is systems and the things that some visionaries just do not want to touch. They do not want to look at a spreadsheet. They do not want to figure out Dubsado. They do not want to figure out how to make things automate. But it's like, you have to, until you can hire someone to be that for you. Let's put it in place so you don't have to think about it. Because the less you have to think about the automations and the things happening naturally, the more you can be in the seat of the bus that you want to be, right? Like every business is a bus and everyone sits in this particular seat. And when you're an entrepreneur by yourself, unfortunately, you have to sit in all the seats until you figure out how to make that seat hold itself until a body is there. And it's fascinating to see, like, when a visionary is like, well, do you just want to work for me? And I'm like, well, I'm happy to do that. There is a service that you can pay me to do that for you, but you still have to know how it works once I set it up. Like, you still have to know, because you can't just let parts of your business just be like, I don't want to touch the finances this week. It's like, right, well, when tax season comes, the only person accountable for the finances is you, because you don't have a CFO yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're like, well, I don't even know which I am, because a lot of times this is a self-assessment. So we think we're one thing because we think that's what we want to be or what we're supposed to be. And our ego is driving us, which is the danger of self-assessment quizzes like Enneagram and Myers-Briggs, because you're assessing yourself. So those aren't true answers always, but I digress. Traction and Rocket Fuel are two great books that you can read that will help you distinguish pretty much by like the fourth page if you're an integrator or a visionary. So Bridgitte, you're holding the visionary role in 3 companies right now. How are you staying? I have so many questions. How are you staying in your zone of genius? How are you staying in the visionary role? How are you trusting all of these other people and these other teams? How are you hiring? How are you firing? Like, what are your processes for doing all of those things?
Yeah. Well, to Brandi's point.
And your wedding planning, just to throw that in there.
And renovating our new house, but what is life? To speak to what Brandi was just talking about, I think, we're still very much a startup. So it's very altruistic to believe that I can just totally stay in my visionary role right now. We have 2 or 3 and 4 full-time employees, but that still sometimes means that I'm like trying to think through an SOP or an actual process, or that I'm involved in the hiring process, even if I have a recruiter. So I'm the founder of my company. I'm very much still not fully in that visionary role, which I need to continue to hire more people so that I can live that out. So it's still a lot of work. And, to speak to Jess, you were kind of asking me that big question of like, what is my vision of this company? I started Gut Personal, my supplement line, with the intention to sell in 3 to 5 years for $100 million.
Ooh, baby. So you literally are building to sell.
Yes. And I think that's, if I don't
love
know
that, you know that. The business coach in me loves that you know that you want to sell the company. That is, some people are like, no, I never want to. I'm like, but no, let's be real. Do you want to sell this company eventually? And they're like, absolutely not. 3 months later, they're like, okay, so maybe I didn't understand. But I'm like, I love music to a business coach's ears to hear that, because that puts a very specific path forward for the company. But it is
specific. And you said 100 mil, which, let's call a spade. That's a safe goal, right? Like, that's totally doable. It's a safe goal. So we can go much bigger, which is super exciting. But what I want to talk about is the fluidity, the flow, with the not so rigid. Meaning, I asked you last night, who do you want to sell to? And your response was like, I'm not sure. Like, I don't really know yet. You didn't really have like a hard yes or a hard no in the type of person or company you wanted to sell to. So you can be clear, but also detached, right? So what does that look like when you're making decisions? Because like, what's the end goal?
Our core values really like help with decision making. So for example, I was sharing with you and Mike, your husband, last night, I was just going through a very tough season in all of my businesses in January and February. And it was the first time I actually came up against something very difficult. My business flew very easily before this. So this was kind of like, okay, this is the wall. I'm hitting it because I'm trying to grow all of these things. And because I am so clear of who I am, what my vision and mission are, and our core values, which are authenticity, gratitude, integrity, and positivity, that when someone comes into my world and they're trying to help me elevate this mission and vision, and they don't hold those core values themselves or think they're important, that I've had to let go a handful of people, whether contractors or actual employees of my business, because our values were not aligned. And I think that's a tough thing when you're growing, whether it's internally, like being an entrepreneur is a lot of internal work. I believe when you have the most success, it's because you've done the inner work. That some people aren't going to be on that rocket ship with you, and you've got to figure out who those people are, surrounding yourselves with, whether it's in a business coaching program, whether it's your best friend you've had for 15 years that's not elevating you anymore, or you're elevating each other. You've got to figure out who your peeps are, and you got to figure out who's not. And if they're not, it's making the decision. And, I find myself to be a very loving person, but it comes from a place of love, of like, we can't be on this rocket ship together because actually our rocket ships aren't aligned.
Yeah. You're holding mine back, right? You're weighing it down. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I add to that? So one of the things that's coming up for me as I'm listening, so I'm also an operations person like Brandi, but I have to also hold the role, as we've discussed, of the visionary. And so one of the things that I was saying earlier was just that this is the first time in my life that I don't have a clear vision. So for those of you out there who are listening and you're like, damn, Jess and Bridgitte have such a clear understanding of where they want to go and not how they want to get there, but where they want to go. Well, that's what it's sounding like to me. So
I'm shaking my head because I'm like, not me.
No. Okay. Well, it sounds that way. So if anybody is like, well, I don't know what that vision is, I want you to also have permission to take one step forward anyway.
Yeah.
And allow the vision to come to you, because you have the thoughts and the desires and the skill sets that you have on purpose. You have those gifts for a reason. Don't ignore them, right? So I love to use the example of, I do not hear melodies, right? I don't hear a melody. I cannot create a song out of thin air. I don't hear verses that come in poetry and that can be turned into a song. I am not a songwriter, right? But there are people out there who walk down the street and hear a melody. There are people down there who can hear a verse and turn it into an entire song. That's their gift. My gift is very different. I can see a big vision. I can have somebody tell me they want to create an event, and I can produce that event very easily and have it be the time of my life. That's my gift. But when it comes to, I also have a gift with mindset. I also have a gift with coaching. But it's okay for me to show up for this gift every day without a clear vision of where I'm headed, and still take the action steps forward to turn this, to be aligned with this gift and allow it to be the thing that allows me to have a life and income and connections with other people. And so for those of you who may not feel that might be freaking out because you don't have a very thought out and clear vision, like sell my company for 100 mil, which is what happened to me. I was like, I have no ideas for creating a company to sell it for 100 mil. I have none. Not today. I do not have them.
This goes back to your carrot. Carrot. So for the person sitting there listening who doesn't have that big vision, but the vision might just be to help pay the bills or to get out of the job that they hate. Like that is the vision, and the target keeps moving, because as humans, we're always moving the finish line. And I use this analogy all the time. It's like, if you've ever gone out for a run, I mean, I'm not a runner. I don't really enjoy it, and definitely more of a jogger. But if you have gone for a run, you've probably experienced where you're like, all right, come on, I can do this. Just get to the fire hydrant. When you get to the fire hydrant, you could walk, but then you get to the fire hydrant and you're like, well, I still have steam in the tank, so I'm going to keep going. So you keep running and you're like, just get to the corner of the street. When I get to the corner, I'll walk. And then you get to the corner and you're like, well, that wasn't so bad. I'm not out of breath. So let me just get to the tree. And we just keep moving the finish line. So you get to do the same thing with your vision. And the cool thing is that vision that Bridgitte has right now of building this company to sell for 100 mil, it's going to change as she grows the company. It's going to change as she understands more things, as more people come into her life that she didn't know before, more opportunities happen. It could completely derail and pivot to something else. It could actually double, triple, quadruple. It can also take much longer than she's anticipating. So it's like the first finish line. And before the build the company to sell, which is the big vision, it was probably just, how do I raise money? Right, Bridge? Like how did you even start?
Oh my golly. I mean, It was like every month. So I do a crap ton of inner work. I do breath work every morning. And so to all of our point, like it kept changing, like micro alignment, it kept changing. And in August, I was like, okay, I'm hiring an agency. In September.
For what?
For a supplement line.
Yeah. Okay.
That was, in August, I'm hiring an agency for a supplement line. It's going to be gut health supplements. There's going to be a quiz. We're going to personalize. It's very disruptive in the gut health space. September, I was like, okay, I think I'm going to raise. And when I thought I was going to raise like 50 grand. Now we get 50 grand investments alone now. So then a couple months later, it was like, okay, I'm going to raise 250 and here are my projections. And so that has definitely changed as I've gone on. And I assume that it will continue. I didn't think I'd be growing a team this quickly, but I needed to in order to, have my life back and grow as quickly as I wanted to. So it's been a ride.
Yeah. It's the action breeds clarity, right? There's clarity and contrast, however you want to say it. So it's every step that you take, every, mistake, we say in quotes, because there are no mistakes, every challenge that you come up against, every mistake you make, every conversation you have, there's clarity every single time that you take action. So now you're, raising $500,000. So that's even gone up again. And I'm sure the conversations with the investors has changed. And your original pitch deck that you had sent me to be an investor was wildly different than now how you speak about it. And so it's just this process of learning and unlearning and being okay with being in that process and being okay with not having all the answers. And I remember dear friend and mentor to many, Lori Harder, when she was raising money for Light Pink, which I'm an investor in, she very openly was like, I don't have all the answers to all of your questions on these investor calls because I don't know. I've never done this before. And that was one of the sole reasons why I was like, yep, take my money, because I'm like, I love that you're learning with us. I love that you're teaching as you go with us. And I know that's also something that you've been doing with your multiple companies is you've got the coaching aspect, you've got Gut Personal, you've got all these different branches and you're teaching as you go. And as you're learning, you're sharing. And I just think it's such a beautiful representation that we get to be all three, the research, the role model, and the result expert at the same time. And so for the person who, and I'm going to just kind of put a bow on it here, but for the person who is feeling that imposter of, I don't have the certifications, I'm not good enough, this, that, and the other, there's other people doing it that are better. It's more saturated than it's ever been. Specifically for Bridgitte, what would you say to that person?
Call your shot. You're doing it different than other people are going to do it. You have a different perspective than someone else. Call your damn shot. Go in on that vision that you have right now. Jess just said it's uncomfortable. Growing for me right now is uncomfortable. Investing in Jess was uncomfortable. Investing in other things that it's all uncomfortable. But if you're willing to grow, you're gonna feel uncomfortable for a hot sec. And you can enjoy that. You can be like, oh, hell yeah. This is a sign that I'm going big on this other area. Or you can stay in discomfort and stay small. So call your shot, call that vision that you hold for yourself right now, and do the damn thing.
Yeah. It's choosing the discomfort, right? It's like discomfort in the mundane, everyday boredom or whatever that might be, feeling that you're not excited about, or the discomfort of growth, which I'm looking at our moms here. And it's like, I'm sure when your little babies have teeth popping through, like that's super uncomfortable, right? When they start to get taller. And I remember having shin splints and stuff. They're literally called growing pains that children go through. And so it's the same thing when you're in your own life as an adult, in business and relationships. So we could do this for hours. This is incredible. This has been so much fun. I'm so grateful for all of you. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing in this world. I'm so grateful that you continue to do the work on yourselves, but also in your businesses. And, you allow yourself to expand that vision, to be expanders for others, to pivot in your businesses. I hope that one day you can have a similar experience where you are roundtabling with a bunch of clients that you've worked with, some from 4 years ago, who are still doing the thing that they did with you initially, but on a bigger scale, because this honestly has been the biggest gift for me to be able to sit down with all of you. So I love you dearly. We will put all of your Instagram handles and anything cool that you have going on in our show notes. So anything that you got going on, masterclasses, freebies, opt-ins, make sure we get that over to the team. We'll put those in the show notes. And I'm sure these women would love to open up conversation with anyone. If you're a listener and anything struck a chord, please feel free to reach out. Everybody here is super approachable. And I'm sure it would mean the world to them if they hear your biggest takeaways, if they hear what resonated. And I just love you all. I'm so grateful. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you shared it with a friend. And if you want the chance to win one of our incredible podcast launch giveaways, like a Yeti microphone, AirPods, or a super cute throwback Polaroid camera, all things to help your business evolve and explode, make sure you take 30 seconds to subscribe, review, and share on your socials. Be sure to check out our show notes for all the juicy details. And until next time, cheers to your evolution.